Sid Kajanu deliberately reincarnates into a fantasy world where magic exists. As per his dream of controlling everything from the shadows and pretending to be a side character, he trains in solitude and soon creates a group named Shadow Garden. This consists of powerful women he saved from the cult of Diablos. As a teenager, he heads off to the Magic Academy. Here, he enters a fake relationship with Princess Alexia, makes her fall for him, gets accused of kidnapping her, and then saves her from her true kidnappers. Afterwards, an imposter group using Shadow Garden's name is discovered killing people. As the real Shadow Garden investigate this group, the Magic Academy is one day taken hostage by them. Wanting to keep his act of being a weakling but not willing to let innocents be killed, Sid takes an attack meant for another student. The imposter group uses an artifact that blocks the magic of all students. Since they can't fight back, they are forced to cooperate with the terrorists who lead them to the auditorium to be held hostage. Meanwhile, Sid revives himself from his supposed death. Taking to the academy's roof, he surveys the situation and is happy at the opportunity to have his shadow alter ego shine. He snipes a ton of the terrorists around campus from the roof before heading inside to defend Sherry Barnett. One of the brightest researcher students, she has an artifact capable of countering the one the terrorists have. She tells Sid that she requires certain tools from her study, so he heads to go get them. On his way there, he fights one of the terrorists, Rex. Though calling it a fight is a bit misleading. Sid completely destroys him in every way. Breaking through his shields, knocking him around like a ragdoll, and showing him a room full of his dead comrades, Sid breaks the man. While Sid heads back to Sherry with the needed tools, one of his Shadow Garden subordinates posing as a student, New, tells him his followers are ready to enter and slay the terrorists at his command. After completing the counter artifact, Sherry heads to the auditorium through one of the academy's hidden passages. When she reaches there and activates it, the students get their magic back and start fighting the terrorists. Then, Sid appears in his shadow form. Fighting the terrorists with his followers, he allows the students to escape while the enemy is killed off. The terrorist leader, a man in a suit of armor, sabotages the building's gas supply to make the whole place burn. With everyone else out of the building, Sid confronts the man in armor in Sherry's research room. Here, it's revealed he is her adoptive father. The man she looks up to and loves as her parent is the one who killed her mother so long ago. All for the sake of some artifacts he could use to cure his own illness. Having heard his reasons, Sid allows himself to be killed and then returns in his shadow outfit to fight the man. Using the artifacts he recovered, Sherry's father transforms himself and gains a power boost. This isn't nearly enough to beat Shadow though, and all his sword slashes continue being blocked. Eventually, Shadow fights back and decimates the man. Stabbing him in joint after joint, he finishes the man off with a stab to the heart. Unfortunately, as he's leaving, Sherry is seen standing in the doorway. She just saw her father be murdered. As things settle down, Shadow Garden discover they've been framed for everything that happened and more. They're now enemies of the kingdom. This makes no difference to Sid. His goals are his own and the world's stance couldn't matter less to him. With the academy destroyed from the terrorist attack, the students are given an early summer vacation. This leaves Sid bored out of his mind with nothing to do. Luckily, he receives a letter from Alpha summoning him to the sacred city of Lindworm. Unknown to him, Alexia is also heading there as part of an investigation for Princess Iris. On his way there, he runs into Princess Rose, the princess of another land. After he sacrificed himself to save her at the beginning of the terrorist attack, she swore her heart to him and has decided to be his lover. Constantly doting over him to the point of frustrating Sid, she reveals her hopes for what's to come. Sid should participate in the goddess trials taking place in Lindworm and do his best to win. If he can do this, then she can ask her father to allow their marriage, as he'll have proven his worth. Sid is uninterested though, and avoids her every attempt to seduce him over the course of their journey. Arriving in Lindworm, Sid discovers one of his followers, Beta, has become a famous author using the stories Sid told her about from his own world. When he approaches, she hands him a coded message about the mission Alpha summoned him here for. That night, as Sid watches over the city from high above, Archbishop Drake of this land's church is found murdered and Alpha is seen fleeing the scene. Enjoying his time in Lindworm, Sid heads to a local hot spring. Here, he meets Alexia and they share a bath. Something that surprisingly neither of them bat an eye at. Alexia explains the goddess trials to him. An annual event where Lindworm's sanctuary door opens. Warriors from all over the world come here to prove their worth by fighting the spirits of warriors from the past. Unfortunately, Sid can't participate as one must register for it beforehand and the spirits only appear to those they believe worthy. She also reveals that she was here to audit the now-dead Archbishop. The next day, as the trials begin and Sid sits in the stands to spectate, he regrets not being able to participate as Shadow. This would have been the perfect time to show off under the guise of an underdog. Later, as the trials come to an end, the last participant is called Sid Kajanu. Someone else registered him beforehand, most likely Alpha. Deciding to cause a large enough confusion that people forget about Sid, he appears in the arena in a flashy entrance as Shadow. The new Archbishop who has replaced Drake is furious at his appearance, but before anyone can do anything, a magic circle appears. A warrior is responding to fight against Shadow. Having deemed him worthy, the spirit summoned to fight Shadow is that of Aurora, the strongest witch to ever live in this world. Shadow is overjoyed at finally finding an opponent who can actually give him a fun fight. Aurora uses ancient magic known only to her to use blood-red spears with changeable length and flexibility. She uses them to chase Shadow around the arena and keep him on the defensive. While this tricks the spectators into thinking he'll lose, Shadow is actually just observing her. By doing this, he realizes something. Aurora is trapped under someone else's control and cannot fight at full power. Grateful for the fight and sad at Aurora's misfortune, Shadow flies towards her with one single, incredibly powerful sword slash and slices straight through her, sending her spirit back to where it came from. As Shadow flies away from the scene, a giant crimson-red magic door appears. The sanctuary door. Over with Sid, a magic door has appeared in front of him as well. Deciding to play along, he walks into it. Back in the arena, all the people are evacuated out. Remaining are Rose, Alexia, and Archbishop Nelson. Members of Shadow Garden appear to surround them and enter the door, taking Nelson with them. Remembering her past encounters with Shadow, Alexia jumps in as well, followed by Rose. Inside the door, they discover the truth behind the sanctuary. Girls like Alpha are the descendants of children who were experimented on long ago by the cult of Diablos. This, the sanctuary, is where they carried out their operations. To gain power, they injected children with the cells of the demon Diablos itself. Ever since that time, the cult have made use of children compatible with Diablos cells to create a special drug, the beads of Diablos. These grant ageless immortality and power, but they're incomplete and have to be consumed every year. Archbishop Nelson is one of the 12 high-ranked individuals, the Knights of the Round, who consume these. The church itself is the cult of Diablos. Meanwhile with Sid, the door he entered has led him to Aurora. Trapped in a chair in a white void, she has Sid free her and explains to him what the sanctuary is. A prison made of memories themselves. The only way to destroy it and escape is to destroy the place's magical core. To achieve this goal, the two set off into memory after memory that's held in the sanctuary. Back with the others, when Nelson admits to being one of the original members of the cult who first invented the beads of Diablos, he's impaled through the back by Delta and left to die. Unfortunately, he can't quite be killed that easily and emerges from the pond he fell in as a demon. Using his control over the sanctuary, Nelson separates Alpha, Beta, Delta, Rose and Alexia from the rest of Shadow Garden into a white void and takes them on in battle. By creating dozens of clones, Nelson keeps the girls on their toes as he keeps coming back no matter how many of him Delta kills. Then, he reveals his advantage. The closer they are to the sanctuary's core, the more their magic will be drained and the stronger he'll get. Back with Sid and Aurora, they've continued to destroy memory after memory on their way to the sanctuary's core. At one point, they come under attack by zombies sent by the sanctuary as a defense mechanism. Fighting through them, they finally reach an empty room. Here, A beautiful sword is embedded in the ground in front of a door covered with chains. With the girls, Nelson is terrified by the brute strength displayed by Delta as she destroys clone after clone without tiring. No matter what he does, he can't seem to gain the upper hand. Eventually, Delta and Alpha together kill so many of his clones that the void prison he made shatters and they all return to the main sanctuary. Feeling defeated, Nelson tries one last trick. He summons the spirit of Olivier, the ancestor of Alpha who the cult used to defeat Diablos ages ago. Before a fight can break out though, the other members of Shadow Garden arrive and inform Alpha that they've copied all the information they needed from the sanctuary's records. Since their objective is complete, Shadow Gardens simply leave, creating a portal to escape. With their knowledge of the sanctuary's defenses now, they can return whenever they wish. Over with Sid and Aurora. They tried to use the sword embedded in front of the chained door, but inscriptions appeared to tell them only a direct descendant can pull the sword from where it's stuck. Now they've just been waiting for someone else to appear. When a portal opens, Sid is relieved that the supposed protagonist has appeared, but it's revealed to just be Nelson along with Olivier. Nelson orders her to kill Sid, throwing the two into a duel. While Nelson and Aurora are both convinced that Sid has no chance of beating Olivier, he seems strangely calm even as he's injured. Turning to Nelson, he says there's no fun in fighting a puppet with no heart. Aurora begs him to stop and tells Nelson she'll do as he says if Sid is allowed to leave. This annoys Sid though, as he knows he won't be beaten just like that. Hence he tells Aurora to just sit back and watch. Then suddenly, Olivier appears in his guard and stabs Sid all the way through. Surprisingly, he simply smirks at her, and a blue flame appears in his eye. That's all for this one, Kings. I'm glad you enjoyed, and if you did, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. I'm sure I'll see you all very soon.